going to start enforcing A, B, and C, because things kind of slide. If you let them, things will kind of slide, and then the standards of the neighborhood might start to slip a little bit.
There's an entire generation of Americans who no longer care about prestige, titles, work travel, fancy offices, and lunches. Welcome to Mundane Millionaires, a podcast for this generation of small business owners who want to set their ego aside and focus on what matters: family, community, quality of life, and cash flows. In each episode, Eric Pacifici and Kevin Henderson uncover what it takes to get a little money in the bank, control your time, and invest in building great families and lives. Let's get started.
All right, Kev. So we had Mr. Reply Guy himself, the ultimate reply guy, Dave Housley, on the pod. It was a fun conversation. Dave is sneakily a great business guy, right? I don't mean sneakily, just in the sense that it should be surprising. He just doesn't talk about it much on social media or in his public presence, and he kind of gets into why that is. But fun conversation.
Yeah, really great conversation. I enjoyed hearing about it. It's a business I don't know a lot about. Listeners will hear more as we dig into the episode, but Dave and a couple of partners run an HOA management. So we hit, HOAs, good or bad, kind of their approach to managing HOAs and how they built. They were not ETA entrepreneurs. They're kind of classic startup entrepreneurs. And so he walks through a bit of the strategy of how they did that and bridged from their careers to the startup, and just a really fascinating conversation about a business you don't think a lot about. A lot of people hate HOAs, but don't think much about how they're managed. So I think the listeners are going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit, because I've had some interesting HOA, snafus in the past with cured cups and things I've talked about publicly. My local HOA maybe being a little bit too generous with our funds, but I also am an otherwise massive proponent for HOAs, at least in certain contexts, right? I mean, I kind of get as a man, I kind of get the go out there and have your own homestead and nobody tells you what to do with your land concept. I appreciate that, but also when you live in suburban Orlando, and you got golf courses and boat ramps and, tennis courts and amenities, that's a pretty cool thing too. And somebody's got to take care of that. So Dave is, jokingly, I'd say this is the world's most mundane man, but I don't know if it's a joke, Kevin, because I went through his most prolific tweets of all time. And the one that jumped out at me that's hilarious is, my thermostat is set at, what is your thermostat set at? Me? 68 degrees. And then everybody's commenting 72, 73, I'm just that is the most mundane tweet I think I've ever seen.
I love that.
Oh, such a fun conversation. Such a fun guy.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think everyone will enjoy it. So let's dig in. Enjoy this week's episode of Mundane Millionaires.
Hello, David. It's good to finally speak with you.
Hey, good morning. Is this episode sponsored by Chick-fil-A?
I wish. Hot damn, they'd pay a lot of money.
So you guys I'm going to take a lot of shit for this. So let's start with a hot take right off the top. We just got a new Chick-fil-A. I'm eating a chicken sandwich, so I sound disgusting in my mic. So apologies to everybody who's listening to this, if anybody even is. But we just got a new Chick-fil-A about a quarter of a mile from where I work. There's also a McDonald's there. The Chick-fil-A now has a massive line, which means the McDonald's has no line, which I'll take as a indirect win. So this is, in fact, a McDonald's chicken sandwich. I don't know if that's sacrilege.
Oh, is it any good?
That's pretty good. I'm not complaining. No. You look like a guy who enjoys a chicken sandwich, Dave.
You got that right. A chicken sandwich, a ham sandwich, a turkey sandwich.
Anything between two pieces of bread,
You name it. No, I thought this might be something where I have to wear a hat, so I got my hat ready. This
Yeah,
says this
I'm
says
no hat today.
no hat. Go fix that. This says Idaho State of Mind. One of my buddies is he's kind of helping out with this new company, so I'm going to represent that today.
Yeah, I took my son to a private school tour today, begging these people to take my two children for $50,000 a year. You know, whatever it is, it's absurd. But
you can drop them off at my place in Dallas for $50K a year, bro. my kids will teach them.
Hey, I'm going to say this is the only nice thing I'm ever going to say to you, and it's not about you. If my kids turn out half as good as your kids, it'll be worth every penny. But
yeah, definitely not me. You make me work too much, so it's mostly my wife.
So I am saying,
how old are your kids, Eric?
I have a 2-year-old. He turned 2 in May. And then I have a 4-year-old who will turn 5 in August. So we're currently looking at kindergarten for the 5-year-old next fall and pre-K 3 for the 2-year-old next fall also. And the private school thing, guys, Kevin, your kids went to public.
Correct.
And David, how many kids do you have?
4.
In public?
All public.
All public. Yeah. So I'm in Florida. And as you guys know, there's varying levels of quality of education in Florida. We actually have pretty decent public schools, but then you got to deal with the parents and whatever else. So we're looking at private schools. And it's different now, guys, right? Like post-COVID world, like people were at each other's throats for, and you guys know this, right? For 2 years. And I don't know that the civil discourse has recovered at a micro level. So feels like private is at least something worth looking at, but it's 50, like no joke, for 2 kids to a private school is between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. And you can't get them in.
So that's actually why we moved, Eric, as you recall, back when we worked together here in Dallas. I lived in a different part of the Metroplex. And we ended up moving. We weren't super happy with the schools. And so we started looking at some of the private schools that are popular in Dallas. And my mind was completely blown. We have 3 school-age kids. So it would have been between, depending on the year, $80,000 to $100,000 to send the 3 of them. You know,
Yeah.
Maybe some, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 off here or there if you have 3 kids, right? Like the multi-line discount or something like that. And it just, it didn't make any sense. It made way more sense to move across the Metroplex to a better district, buy a more expensive house to get in the better district. And you know, we come out way ahead, at least in my opinion. I'm a big advocate for public schools, so that's a different topic for a different time and beyond the scope of Mundane Millionaires.
Please tell me you're not one of these, like, someone's got to lead the charge and use my kids as guinea pigs so that everybody else can benefit.
Absolutely, Eric. In fact, I don't protest my tax property bill. I kick in a little sweetener. I pay a bonus every year.
A little extra in. I love that. You're like, hey, if you need my kids to come down to City Hall and like pick up used needles from the bums, like I'm your guy.
Dave looks like he doesn't believe me.
Yeah. Come on. No,
your kids are older, right?
My kids?
Yeah.
I've got a 9-year-old, a 15-year-old, 19, and 21.
I love that you didn't do them in. Did you do that in chronological order?
Yeah. 9, 15, 19, 21.
Okay. All right. I thought you were just throwing them out there as you were like, they were coming to your mind. You're like,
just for our listeners, I want to be clear. Eric does not do.
You got a 9-year-old. Which I wish so the backstory on this chicken sandwich, I wish I didn't have this chicken sandwich near me, as I was on a video watching eating a chicken sandwich one time, and David has his background as me eating this chicken sandwich. I won't put it on the screen because I want to kill people's appetites, but this is the first time this is not the first time we've spoken. We've spoken multiple times.
Yeah, we've talked on the phone before.
Yeah,
I've had conversations with Kevin too. So, but in this format, this is the first time.
Yeah, this is the serious format where we're being a little too lowbrow, guys. We got to clean this up, and let's start from the beginning. Dave, when and where were you born? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But
the hell do you even do? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
What?
I do. I want to get into that because I feel like if you guys are fans, I always quote The Office, but there's a television show called The Office. He goes on a blind date. She's a landlord, and he's super bored with her, and she's like. And he's like, so he's trying to make conversation. She's like, so you take the rent checks, and then what do you like? She's like, are you asking what I do with the rent checks? I have no idea what you do, Dave. I have no idea this conversation.
So, I mean, you live in an HOA. I mean, you've posted that the HOA spent $7,000 on coffee, right? Don't you live in one of those associations?
I do, and I love it. I'm big pro HOA guy. Before Nick Huber and his pro HOA tweet, 3 weeks before that was my tweet. We'll have Nick on soon. I'm a big fan of Nick, but was my tweet saying almost the exact same thing about being pro HOA. So I am definitively pro HOA. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we manage HOAs, right? Anything from a 50-unit condo community to a 3,000 home, single-family home community. And so all the services that are involved with that, from the condo side up to single-family home, we're in charge of managing those services. So if you have a pool, if you have even an exercise room, if you've got a community that's gated 100% or just access to some of those amenities. So we're going to manage all of the access for that. We are going to send out all the bills that you get for your dues. Some of these are quarterly assessments or semi-annual or annual. So we'll send out the statements for those and then collect on that. And so what we do is we collect the money for the HOA. Most people pay, some do not. If you don't pay, then we're going to send you a couple more letters. And then there's some steps we can take to escalate that if you still do not pay or if let's say you have a financial hardship, you can call us up and say, hey, can I get on a payment plan so I can catch back up? So we'll administer that as well. So those are the things that we do. We manage all the vendors from the landscaping to the pool maintenance to any gate repairs, any other kind of structural maintenance or repairs. We manage all that too.
And how big is your operation? Is it, what type of company?
We have about 30 employees now.
Okay.
Last year we did a little bit more than $3 million in revenue.
Okay. And it's your company or what's your set?
So I've got two partners. So we started it. I've got two partners with me. We started this business in 2016. We are predominantly in San Antonio. We do have some properties in Austin, and we're slowly expanding up north along that corridor. As you look at New Braunfels and San Marcos and those towns that go up through there, that's kind of where we want to expand up to, and then more so into Austin. That's kind of our goal here in the near term.
And is that an easy business to get into? I mean, getting your first client as a HOA management, like how do you start a company like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we started actually by going to a developer. So our business, we have kind of two segments of clients. We've got the developers, the builders, those who are building, the brand new communities. We have about 25% of our business with developers, and most of these are large national companies: KB Home, Pulte, Lennar. So when they're putting a community together, they need somebody to come in and establish the HOA, right from the start. So we'll come in and partner with them. But that's kind of how we started our business. We went to a builder and said, we want your business and we're going to do it for free.
Oh, wow.
that was kind of it's kind of a revolutionary thing because now when I say we're going to do it for free, we're not going to charge the builder a management fee up front until a
Critical
homeowner
mass.
gets on the board. So typically, the builders will maintain control of the homeowner boards until anywhere from 66% build out to 100%. We've got some builders, they like to wait till 100% build out, then they'll turn it over and bring their first homeowner on to the board. They want to maintain that control all the way to the end. But some of our builders at 66%, they'll put a homeowner on the board and then kind of get them up to speed, so if you will, in kind of the operational aspects, what's happening, how to be a board member, kind of bring them along. So we wanted to give away the service for free up front for this developer, and then only collect when homes are sold, and then as soon as it's homeowner controlled, then we'd start charging a management fee.
And is that obviously share as much as you feel comfortable here? Is that part of the ongoing model now, or was that really only the startup strategy and now you do something different?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's kind of a mix.
Okay.
For some of our partners that have been with us since the beginning, we still offer that for them. And then for some of our new communities, it's just a case by case thing. Typically a management company might charge anywhere from $500 to $800 a month per community for management fee. It's not a whole lot. You're not doing a whole lot until you've got homes built in the neighborhood.
Yep.
There's not a whole lot going on. But then when infrastructure gets built and homes get built and there's collections to make and then there's then there's violations to do. So, one of our jobs is to drive the neighborhoods, right? Drive the neighborhoods, making sure that standards are being met by the residents. And if somebody's not adhering to the standards that the board wants to enforce, then we do have to send violation letters. This is the one thing that upsets people more than anything else. These are generally just courtesy letters. Just says, hey, your grass is 2 feet tall. We need you to cut it, kind of thing.
Right.
So
you love those letters.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's nothing more than that.
So he gets this little smirk. He's like, and then we send the letters. Kevin. Like,
well, it's
walking back. Like, we don't love sending the letters, Kevin. Sometimes the letters are just about you. You love the letters.
Well, it's a love-hate thing. I mean, the more letters that we send, the more our phones are going to ring, and we're going to get, people are just going to light us up, right?
Wait, but what's the relationship between the HOA management team and the actual board, right?
Okay, so every neighborhood has a board of directors. I mean, every association essentially is it's a corporation, right? And they have a board of directors. It could be anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 people, and so the board has to oversee and make decisions based on all the residents, right? And so what they'll do is oftentimes they'll go out and they'll hire a professional management company such as ours, right? There still are lots of HOAs that are self-managed. They'll either have to hire directly, staff themselves to help in the management, or the board will just do it themselves. Or if it's just a small HOA where there's not a whole lot of complex organizational needs, then you don't really need an outside management firm. Like for our company, for single family homes, we like to look at a neighborhood that's at least 300 homes and up. We get requests all the time from really small properties that might be 80, 90, 100 homes. and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, we have a minimum fee, and a lot of times some of these communities that are so small, they don't have the need, and they don't really have the financial strength to go out and hire an outside management company.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our HOA here, I think, is 24 houses. It's tiny. We self-manage.
Oh, wow.
It's a really low fee. It doesn't do much. So I could see how a neighborhood like ours just wouldn't, I mean, the numbers aren't there. I think I pay like $140 a year or something, right? I mean,
that's pretty low. Yeah. Yeah. And so there's just, you're not bringing in enough revenue to really,
right.
It doesn't make sense. And if you don't have, if you don't have a pool, if you don't have common areas, playgrounds, things like that, areas to maintain, there's not a whole lot of work that's needed.
Well, so let me share my screen. So I got in trouble locally for tweeting about our HOA. And
really?
Well, yeah, people were like, "You're the Keurig guy." I'm like, quit stealing the bots. I mean, guys, these tweets, like, if you're not somebody with a large Twitter account, it's hard to appreciate how far these tweets travel.
Yeah.
And so I tweeted about our HOA. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here it is right here. They had budgeted $1,000 for Keurig cups, replenishment of Town Square Coffee Bar. They spent $7,294. And so in 2023, they budgeted $4,250 as like the replacement cost. I don't know what there was a strategic plan there to reduce the coffee consumption. A 425% increase is pretty healthy. I love it. Like the thinking behind the coffee is beautiful. But Huber had this amazing, and I want to point out, so I tweeted on, I want this on the record. I tweeted on May 4th that HOAs are awesome and I wouldn't live outside one. So I went on record. I got a lot of disagreement. And then Hubert, 20 days later, he magically took the same take. But it's an amazing take, right? And he got blasted. I mean, 11.8 million views.
Wild.
It's an interesting thing. Let me stop sharing screen here, but I had no idea HOA was so controversial, right? To me, I'm like, well, we got boat ramps, we got swimming pools, we got walking trails, we got, and I know there's Karens rolling around on golf carts yelling at people, but the upside of living in a beautiful curated neighborhood, what's not to love?
How big's your neighborhood? Like how many homes?
I don't know the answer to that. I want to say somewhere like 750 sounds right. It's a pretty big neighborhood. Yeah.
And how? I mean, that's a lot for the coffee cups. I'm just like, how many coffee cups per day are these people consuming? It's not
Dave,
making sense.
Yeah, that's cute that you think all that money was actually spent on coffee cups. But
well, that's what a lot of people are like. Hey, there's embezzlement going on here, and I'm like, that is a weighty charge, right? That is, anytime you accuse somebody of
for sure
anything. I mean, if it's only a criminal, you want to pause first. I think that the reality is we're back behind Disney. We've got a really active HOA management, local management team. We're actually managed by First Service Residential, which I think is a big corporate. Yeah, big corporate guy. But our local team is like all Disney people, right? Like, and so they're amazing. We have these, we have a 4th of July fireworks show coming up and a Christmas party. And when you go into the clubhouse, 2 clubhouses, it's like a party going on all the time, right? And that's cool. Like, I like that. But you go into it and you're like, okay, it makes sense. The $7,000 worth of coffee got drank in here because people are partying. But you got to want that, right? I guess if you want to live in the woods. And Kevin told me the other day we had a sandhill crane. I don't know if you're familiar with sandhill crane. Can I tell him about the sandhill crane, Kevin?
Yeah, go for it.
We had an injured sandhill crane, baby sandhill crane. These birds are majestic, right? And people in Texas call them the filet mignon of the sky. Or what do they call it? Ribeye.
The ribeye of the sky.
Really?
So You guys eat them because you guys will literally eat anything that has meat on the bone. But we get, so periodically throughout like the spring and summer, the pairs, because they travel in mates. I don't know if they're exclusive or whatever, but there's two of them together all the time. They have babies and they're beautiful. And they're the little ducklings, and and you kind of watch them go because they don't go very far. You know, they're meandering around. And one of the juveniles, who's now almost full grown, had a broken leg, one of his two legs, and so he's hopping. And so we spent like entirely too much time trying to figure out what to do for the Sando crane because it was sad, right? The family and the other baby are like, 15 or so yards away. Kevin says to me, the quote was, if you weren't such a beta in Florida, you'd shoot that bird. So
I did in fact say that.
I have like 6 or 7 anonymous Twitter accounts that are beta in Florida now. So if you see that, that's me. Those are my burners.
Yeah, but your HOA wouldn't let you discharge a firearm within the limits. So what can you do?
I don't know if they have gun restrictions. Do HOAs have gun restrictions, Dave? Is that?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, no, I've never seen one. It'd be a municipal thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I'm a Southern California native, somewhat outspoken for being a Texas resident. But I mean, HOAs there get a bad rap, right? Because you see the pendulum swing the other way, right? Like my brother literally lived in a neighborhood. I think he was paying somewhere upwards of $1,200 a month in HOA and Melrose fees. And their enforcement person literally drove around on a golf cart with a cane with a ruler taped to the bottom. And she would drive down the sidewalk and stick it in the grass and see if the grass was over the 2-inch limit. And then she would stop and write the citation. Right. And so it's, I grew up in a town of those stories, which is like the corollary to the, pro HOA, that it's like also, HOA is like, home governance run amok. So I guess where I'm going with that, Dave, like, how do you balance that? And is that type of thing, enforcement and things like that, kind of at the discretion of a management company like yours, or are you really taking direction from the board in the neighborhood? And if they're like, no, we want citations if grass is a half an inch over the 2-inch limit or whatever, and you kind of are beholden to what they ask you to do.
Yeah, we take our direction from the board.
Yeah.
They're the ones that can hire and fire us. And so we definitely are going to try fair. We're going to try and keep them happy while at the same point, not upsetting too many of the residents. But it just goes neighborhood by neighborhood.
Yeah.
Especially if we come in brand new as a management company, sometimes the boards will use that as a kind of as a line in the sand that says, okay, we got a new management company coming on. We're going to start enforcing A, B, and C because things kind of slide. If you let them, things will kind of slide, and then the standards of the neighborhood might start to slip a little bit, and then you've got people that will get upset on the other side, because you got some neighbors that have a lot of time on their hands.
Yep.
And they're nosing around, and so they'll be they'll show up to the board meetings and the annual meetings and say, hey, you've got to cut this tree back, or my guy across the street, he's leaving his car on the street every night. You've got to so some people are particular and they want these things enforced. But it really is, it goes board by board. And they'll say, hey, when the springtime rolls around and we get lots of rain and the grass starts growing, they'll be like, okay, we've got to start cracking down on yard maintenance and get people to to get out and take care of things. And so we want you to, your next drive, we want you to really look for this or look for that. So
it feels like it's got to be the ultimate thankless job, right?
Oh, it is. It is.
Imagine
And
a
the
scenario
thing is we're trying
the
to.
HOA management team has been doing such a good job lately. That grass has been cut on schedule the way that it's supposed to be. And I have nothing bad to say about them, right? It's got to be something where it's no news is good news in HOA management.
Yeah,
It is. It is. And the thing is 90% of people, you're never going to hear from them. I mean, I live in an HOA, and we've been in our home here for 7 years, and I can count on one hand, how many emails I've sent to the management company or how many times I've called them. On one hand, I could count in 7 years, and so 90% plus folks, you're not ever going to hear from them. You're going to hear from that small 5 or 10% that are particular and want things done their way too, right? You might have a common area fence that might have a picket or two that's fallen off, and they're like, hey, why haven't we repaired that? Or the fence needs to be painted again. Why can't we, send somebody out there and do that? And so people just have different ideas.
Yep.
For different, especially when it comes to kind of the common areas. So it certainly is interesting because you're dealing with people, and people can get a little nuts sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the word. I mean, you talk about B2C being a pain, right? You are like, not that you're beyond, you're B to Karen. You're like, you're working directly with and for the Karens. It's intense. Well, maybe that's not a fair way to characterize it. I'm one of those people too. I'm one of the you'd never hear from me people. I had a neighbor. We backed up to a green belt in my last house, and my next door neighbor, man, every time I talk to this guy, every single time he'd bitch about the landscaping in the common area in the green belt behind our house. And I was just like, Eric, like, I got it, dude. His name's Eric also. I'm like, I got it, man. Like, you're disappointed with the, every time. And I just couldn't imagine waking up every morning just, he just probably punched the nightstand, be like, they haven't fixed it, just a tough job. But so I tweeted out a few minutes ago. I said, we're talking to Dave Housley on the pod. What should we ask him? Somebody had astutely said, give us your craziest HOA stories. I mean, what kinds of things have you seen in HOA management? There's got to be some stuff. People even boats parked in
there's some crazy stuff, and I get real nervous about, hey, how much can I share? This stuff can get out in the public realm, and people can find who our company is and stuff like that. So I don't want to get myself in too much trouble. But it's funny. We've had some people actually propose, hey, you're living in an HOA, right? And you've got rules and you got standards you want to uphold. We've had some people actually propose, hey, let's just not write violations anymore and let people just do whatever they want with the property that they live on. Just like turn it into the Wild West. Just let it.
There's a good number of people who'll be listening to this, Dave, will say, what's so bad about that?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is even though I own an HOA management company and I live in an HOA, it's not for everybody. And that's the thing is you can choose if you want to live in one or not. You can choose. And it's crazy because there's really not an easy way to find out, before you buy into a property, into a neighborhood. There's really not a good way to find out, hey, are my neighbors crazy? Is the board dysfunctional? And sometimes that happens. I mean, you get 3-5 people on a board. They're not going to always agree. We've had people that have wanted to hire us. A couple of people on the board have wanted to hire us and fire their current manager, and they haven't been able to convince the entire board. And so they've just thrown their hands up and actually resigned and said, hey, I can't, I just can't work with you anymore. I want to take this in a different direction. We need to fix A, B, and C. And so, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. If you're a board member, I mean, my appreciation goes out to you. I mean, being a board member, and sometimes you go to these board meetings and people are throwing darts at you, why are you doing this, and this, right? It's easy to sit back and throw rocks at somebody. And these board members, I mean, they're doing the best they can to make decisions on behalf of everybody. And it's a thankless job for them too, right? They're not getting paid. They're volunteers. They're giving up their time, in kind of the goal of just enhancing and raising the level of the whole neighborhood. So
I feel like every board has one person, right? They've got that one guy where they're like, all right, like we're cool with the shed, but you got to get it through Jim, If you can get it through Jim, you can get it through. If you got to probably go talk to Jim. Maybe I'm just.
I mean, maybe so. I haven't heard of that or run across a situation like that.
So what's your ultimate take? HOA is good or bad?
I think they're good. As a whole, it helps to maintain property values. And I think there's a lot of people that like to, like you're saying, move into a neighborhood. It's well manicured. It's taken care of. You don't have to worry so much about your neighbors across the street, next door, throwing an old car on blocks and leave it there in the yard, or painting your house orange, or doing anything too crazy, right? So I think they do a lot of good. And just looking at how the building and the developing industry works, people want that kind of stuff. They want the amenities too. They want the playgrounds and the parks and the pools. They want somewhere to go with their families and things like that. So I think there's a lot of good that comes from it.
Kevin, are you pro HOA?
I mean, I sit in the middle, right? I mean, I'm pro good HOA.
I don't want to. It depends. You live in an HOA, or you live in a small HOA?
I'm sitting solidly on the fence here, Eric.
We're not going to get enough engagement, Kevin, unless you say something. You just got to throw a grenade.
I'll put it this way: I have never, in the past, and can't see myself ever in the future making a home buying decision based on there being an HOA or not. That said, living in a neighborhood with an HOA has been great. I've lived in neighborhoods that didn't have HOAs, and there were some of the issues, right? Houses that weren't kept up as well and whatever. But I'm kind of like you, Eric. I'm not the guy to get bothered. Like if you've got your old Mustang up on cinder blocks in your driveway, like if you're not dealing drugs out of your house, I don't care that much. So that's a long way of saying, like, I don't have a strong stance, candidly. But I've never ended up in a place where it's mattered that much one way or the other, which could, I'm sure, sway me at some point.
We had a neighbor in an HOA in Colorado, and her house, like, we kind of sat like on a slope looking at Boulder, whatever. But so her house was kind of like it overlooked our backyard, sort of. I mean, there was distance between us, but she kind of looked down on our backyard the way that it was set up. And I was setting up the inflatable water slide like July 3rd, 2 or 3 years ago for the kids. Looked up, and she was on her phone in the window, looking at the water slide, and then she kind of slid out of the and I'm like, this crazy lady's calling me in.
That's hilarious.
Anyways, all right, Dave, let's switch gears, man. You mind if we change topics?
Let's do it.
You are the undisputed king of the reply guy on Twitter. I mean, I would say you are So we had that thing not too long ago where it was something about fake accounts, and you'd run the Twitter audit, and it would show you like the quality of your follows, right? You remember that?
Yes.
And yours was like disproportionately high quality follows, like compared to everybody else for a small number account. Yes, you commented on it at the time. You were like, look at me. And it's because you've mastered this reply guy game. Is this a strategic? So, and I'll explain what that means. Dave will respond to big accounts every tweet within a matter of seconds. So it's not very long that Dave's following you that like you know Dave really well, and eventually he wears you down. You're like, I hate this guy, but I'm going to follow him, right? So you're buddies with like all these massive accounts, yet you rarely tweet any original material of your own. Am I right?
Yeah, I don't send much. I think the last few months I've sent some more original stuff, but man, I don't have a whole lot of content that's worth, I mean, I try to, I go back and forth. I'm like, man, I really would like to,
I mean, Dave, I'm looking right now. You don't even have a tweet that's ever received more than 25 likes.
Are you keeping receipts?
No, man, answer straight up.
Hey, I'm just gonna sit here and let that walk.
No, that's okay. No, that's actually not
pain. I'm just gonna let that just wash over me right now. I feel that. I feel that pain.
No, I'm wrong. You got a couple that are in the 300-400 like range. So I had a typo there, but yeah, you're the master of this, like building relationship through responsiveness social media game. I mean, tell us about that.
I don't know. I mean, you got to do something, right? I mean, if you got to post somehow, either reply or original, you got to post if you want to try and make connections and meet people. I mean, I think it is pretty cool that Twitter exists and it's kind of like this town square, right? People throwing ideas everywhere out, and if you want to join in the conversation, you got to do something, right? Hey, my original content is pretty weak. I wish I could share more business related stuff, but it really isn't that interesting. You know what I mean? I mean, when you talk about the SMB world and everybody talks about buying boring businesses. I mean, hey, most of them are boring, really boring. Yep. So I don't know, what you could share on a daily basis that's really unique, and I'm not this, like these huge accounts where they're doing all this cool stuff and I don't know, doing crazy deals and, whatever. I mean, I'm not doing that. I'm just sitting here picking up the phone and answering emails all day.
Well, you've at least got something interesting about your business that I do think people can learn from, Dave, and that's it. In that we talk to a lot of like independent people searching alone, and you launched your business. It sounds like, I think you said you had 2 other partners. So you from the start were kind of a three person team going out and building this business together. And I mean, you hear the horror stories all the time, and I preach it to clients all the time. Like, partnerships are like relationships, right? They're great until they're not, and then when they're not, like, things get really ugly. So you've managed, I think you said 2016, so you're coming up, either coming up on or just rolled over 7 years working together as a partnership. Maybe unpack that a little bit for listeners and talk us through how you came together with your partners, deciding to launch this business, and how you've been able to run an effective partnership. Asking for a friend who may or may not be in a dysfunctional partnership. But
hey,
talk to
well, I mean,
introduce me to this friend and let me know if he needs a partner.
I mean, partnerships are tough, right? and
Yeah.
we don't always agree. And there's some things that, there's some times where, when we don't agree that it gets tough, but you just, for us, you just have to move forward. And you're not going to get 100% of what you think's going to be what you think, of course, is best for the business.
Right.
But I've got two partners. I've known them about 11 years. So my family moved to San Antonio in 2012. And I met those guys then. We became friends, and one of them had this idea to start a HOA management company. And he mentioned this to me, over the course of a year or more. And I just kind of would brush it off like, why would anybody want to do that? Right.
What were you doing at the time, Dave?
So I was working W-2. I have a finance background. So I was a finance director for a manufacturing company here in town.
Did any of the three of you, were any of the three of you working in real estate, or was this a pivot for all of you?
So one of my partners in a previous role did work for a HOA management company.
Okay.
He worked for a company for a few years, left. And after he left, he's like, man, that would be something that I think we could launch and it would take off. Right. And I just, I never had the expectation that, okay, we're going to launch this thing and it's going to do what it's done so far. Just never had that expectation. At the beginning, we're all working outside the business and we're all working part-time to try and launch this thing. And that was kind of a successful method for us. I think there's lots of ways to transition from the W-2 world to the SMB world. There's lots of ways to do it. But for us, kind of the lowest risk was to all kind of work part-time, at nights and on the weekends to kind of make this thing work while we're juggling other jobs. So I'm the only one actually who's in the business full-time right now. After this thing got some legs, a few years ago, I left my W-2 job and jumped in full-time. My other two partners, they don't work in the business. They have other jobs for their main source of income. And so that's kind of our setup right now.
Interesting. So how long were you kind of bridging the part-time nights, weekends before you were all kind of in this business full time together?
So for me, I juggled this company and what I was doing for about 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not that long ago that you said you started in 20.
Yeah, just a few years ago, I went in full time. And man, it's something that I struggled with for a long time. I really wanted to get in the business. I struggled working my job and trying to focus on this business. And as it grew, it commanded more and more of my time and attention. Right. And I couldn't give it that attention, and it was just such a struggle. And my wife doesn't work outside the home. I've got, my W-2 job was pretty much my only income. The first couple of years, we're just trying to survive. Nobody's taking money out of the business. We're just trying to survive. It's not really, giving us much of anything. I was like, man, this is really tough. I really want to do this. But financially, I'm really nervous because, I don't have any other income source. I've got 2 kids that are starting college soon. Just some family stuff. And so I struggled with it for probably a good 12 months before I finally said, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, even if I have to take a financial hit, in the short term, what I want to do is give the business, 100% my time and attention.
Is that a good business? You like the model?
I do. I really do. One of the advantages I think when we had launching it is just the fact that there's a low bar with management companies, and I think this is the case with any kind of service business. Is you're going to have a low bar. You're going to have a lot of players that really aren't doing the little things to take care of their people. You're going to have some good operators, and so in this market we've got 2 or 3 really tough competitors and good operators that we go head to head against all the time. But then there's several that whenever we get a phone call or whenever we know we're going head to head against a certain company for a bid, that we're going to win it. And so it's a good business to be in. There's recurring revenue every month with the management fees. It's pretty sticky, and it's not going away. I mean, there's just not going to be a situation where all these neighborhoods and communities are just going to disband their HOAs.
Right. What are the bottlenecks? Is it actually servicing the contracts, or?
Yeah, I mean it's a labor intensive business, and so we have it set up where we have a property manager who might oversee 5 or 6 properties, and then we have an operations team and a financial team.
But they're subcontracting, their lawn care and all that. That's all.
Yeah. We're 100% managing the vendors. Lawn care, pool.
So you just have a core team that is managing vendors.
Yeah, we have a core team, and as you scale up, things get easier. So
interesting. It is. I mean, it's HOA, right? I mean, I like recurring revenue.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know how people operate otherwise, having to.
Yeah, Eric, how do people operate otherwise?
I mean, we're project.
How do you guys do it?
You just kind of do, right? I mean, I think what people realize is that, or come to find out, is that Main Street operators, high quality Main Street operators, have more than enough work, even if you're project based. And the bottlenecks in your business are not marketing and developing business. It's almost always servicing the business. I mean, every business we help people buy and sell. I mean, the sim says your opportunities are to expand the team and take more work, almost always. But it does ebb and flow, right? And so it's hard to hire and make projections and do things when you don't necessarily know how much work is coming through the door. And Kevin and I are pretty thoughtful guys, and we don't want to hire people that we can't ultimately, we've got folks who have advised us to hire aggressively and yada, yada, and scale aggressively. And to date, and maybe it's our business amateur nature, Kevin, I don't know, but we've been reluctant to be too aggressive because we don't want to put people in a situation where we can't ultimately support them, because it is project based. If it was recurring and there was something to actually count on, then we'd probably feel differently. So that creates some issues with the scalability of a project based business.
Right.
Well, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, it seems like you guys have grown pretty aggressively in the last 6 or 9 months. As far as hiring and adding staff.
I don't necessarily think you're wrong. I think, to Eric's point, is if we weren't a little more circumspect, it could have been faster, right? Yeah. The demand was there, that we could have churned quicker and we could scale quicker, but we're more interested in building something sustainable, being able to support our people, and we'd rather be turning deals away than taking every deal that comes through the door and just adding bodies to run the deals. and then find ourselves in a place where we don't necessarily have the type of people that we want on the team. We're have to ride a dip in kind of demand and things like that. So I don't necessarily think you're wrong for being 13, 14 months into launching our law firm, to go from 3 founding partners to, I think our all-in team is like 11 or 12.
He's 13,
13
including Alfred.
It's fast. It is.
Yeah,
it is.
That's a it's a pretty big staff.
Yeah.
I mean, at least from 6 months ago, right? You've added.
Well, but there's beauty. I think there was a recent discussion about, do you add how many high quality people can you add, right? Because at some point, you can't. Not every hire can be a rock star hire, because at some point you can't afford them anymore. You can't scale off of rock stars, right? And maybe I shouldn't be talking about this publicly, but to date we've built a team off of complete and total rock stars. Every single person is ridiculously, disproportionately high quality to a small, a startup of our nature. And I think it's a testament to branding and social media and the environment that we're in, with the opportunity with the labor force and whatever else. But it's gone extraordinarily well. And to me, it doesn't feel like we've grown aggressively, because everybody is so on top of their stuff, right? That I haven't felt like I've got to hold hands or whatever else. But we probably, just given the sheer numbers, we found ourselves playing defense a lot and probably hiring later than we should be. And we're probably in that position right now even. But I'd rather do that than be overly aggressive and end up having a few people be in bad positions with not enough work.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm impressed. You guys have put together something pretty cool, I think. What?
Well, you're going to be pissed when you find out our next venture is actually HOA management. That's not what it isn't even a real.
San Antonio, interestingly,
that business is horrible. I would.
Yeah, if you send us a list of your clients, Dave, so we can.
Who would do that?
It's horrible.
Tell us again about the gross margins.
What? I had a question I was going to ask you. So, what if you could share? I know you guys are big on Twitter, and a lot of your business. Your business is pretty much launched off Twitter, right?
Almost entirely, right, Kevin?
So what percent of your business is Twitter based? Like, if Twitter goes down tomorrow, what does that change for you?
Well, I think we're in a better position now than we were 3 months ago or 6 months ago, because we've got now some pretty meaningful inroads on LinkedIn. We have a really incredible PR team. Shout out to Notably PR and Carly and Karen that do an amazing job and have gotten us in American Express and a bunch of stuff. In fact, we've got a press release going out tomorrow just announcing a few of our new hires, and we got interest from, I think they said Reuters, Bloomberg, Law 360, and Law.com, which are all respectively like pretty heavy hitting publications. And so they're doing a really good job of diversifying us off of social media. It wouldn't be good, right? And we thought about this when it wouldn't. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that like, hey, we're active on Twitter.
Yeah. Am I gonna see you guys on TikTok soon? Or?
Yes, absolutely. But only dancing. We don't plan to do any legal content. It's just gonna be Eric dancing.
I would dance on TikTok now if Kevin would let me.
I want to see some TikTok videos of Eric just eating stuff.
Well, wait a second. So can we get audio? Because our chief of staff, David, who actually, this may or may not be public, but he happens to be my much younger brother. He takes my content and he posts it up.
Really?
And he voices over. Super loud. He voices over it, and he's gone viral a few times.
Really? On TikTok?
On TikTok, yeah. So don't sleep. So he goes by Biz. Can you guys see this? He goes by Bio Biz on TikTok, and he took one of my threads. Oh, so this is a new one.
Boomers are retiring. Finally,
You see this?
This creates an opportunity for us.
Yeah.
As many of them.
Oh, let's back up. I love this.
I don't think it's necessarily your threads. I think what he's doing is taking your playbook of like what you do.
Well, no, but so some of them were just literally my threads, but I'll come.
Okay.
Which is great, right? I don't. If anybody's going to steal my content, it's David, you know. But so here he's listening at the beginning. He goes, "So boomers are retiring."
The boomers are retiring finally, but this creates an opportunity for us. Because many of them own profitable small businesses, and now they have to.
Wait, hold on. So that has 84,000 views, Dave. I mean, that's
Really?
Yeah.
that's massive. And then he's got another one. Where is
No,
it?
that's smart of him.
Very
That's smart of him. I think there's
Okay, this is kind of crazy. This is a three-way. Okay, this is kind of crazy. This is a boating business in
Freaking Hawaii.
that makes just shy of $1 million a year and is only selling for $2.3 million. Oh, and it's 22 years old, so it's probably pretty stable.
70-something thousand.
You could probably buy
That's
it.
all.
The topic is interesting everywhere. Like people everywhere are fascinated. And if you look at like financial influencers on YouTube or whatever, right? This whole idea of like how easy it is to go out there and make money on your own terms just resonates hugely. And this is such an interesting, unique spin on it. Now, putting aside the whole, like, this is definitely not easy to do, but it's easy in a 30-second TikTok to make it sound like, yeah, go buy this business, live in your dream place in Hawaii, and boom, you're printing millions of dollars. Like, that resonates with people, right?
Well, that's fantastic. You know, it's Cody, right? I love her, or some people, have issues with Cody. I think what she's doing is great. Top of funnel, she's just spreading a message about an opportunity to, a different way to entrepreneurship. And I mean, I think it's fantastic. Listen, and if this is getting spread out, and then one dude who runs a boring business private equity fund in Park Cities, Utah, is like, hey, I'm going to call these guys and do a deal. Like, I think that's an amazing thing. I mean, that's not the objective necessarily, but TikTok. So Dave's going to be the next TikTok reply guy.
I'm not, I don't ever go on TikTok. I don't have the app. I don't do any of that stuff, but I just think it's funny.
I believe that there are varying levels of addictiveness and problematicness in social media. And it's anything from text to video, text to visual. The more visual it becomes, I think the more problematic it becomes. That's my own personal theory, because it becomes very enticing once it's visual. And it also, breeds all of the envy and jealousy and comparison stuff. That's I think the worst parts of social media. Whereas on Twitter, I know that Elon's trying to move it in that direction and add video and all that, but right now it's largely just written content, which is not particularly sexy. It's why you got to say crazy shit like spending $1,000 for a Taylor Swift ticket is a stupid thing to do to get people to listen to you for a minute. So,
if I did not have teenage daughters, I probably would not even know Taylor Swift existed.
She is an objectively average artist at best. I'm kidding. She's great. She's great. Taylor's great. Awesome.
Yeah, my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter is really questioning if I really love her because I did not send her to go see Taylor Swift. So she's
I just looked
pretty upset with me.
Yeah, so I just picked up 4 tickets to the Cincinnati show. So we're gonna fly the PJ up there and see her in Cincinnati on Saturday night. And
just hopping on your citation.
Yeah, it was $1,300 before StubHub fees. So I think it was like 16 and some change out the door per ticket, 4 tickets. But we're at the front end of the upper bowl, so like we can see down to the stage and everything, which will be nice because some of the seats behind us had you can barely see past the people in front of you. So I think it'll be good.
I legitimately can't tell if you're kidding right now, Eric.
We'll find out.
I think he's
I'm
serious. I
gonna
think he's
be waiting
serious.
for the Instagram posts.
Yeah, monitor your socials for the look at me Instagram post that I'll throw up for you guys.
Well, Dave, what's next for you? Is this are you retiring off HOA management? Are you looking to grow the management company? You looking to eventually exit and do something else? Like what's phase 3 or 6 or whatever the next phase is?
That's a good question. I think the most likely outcome for us is just to continue to invest in the business and to grow it. I have reached out to other small companies about an acquisition, that sort of thing. In fact, it's weird. This one company, I was talking to the owner last year, and he says, okay, let's connect again in January. And I reached out to him in January, called, left messages, and nothing. The guy just completely ghosted me. And I don't know if he...
That's an acquisition target or somebody you want to buy you?
Just a target. Just a target. A smaller company than ours. And I mean, just completely ghosted me. And I'm just like, this is weird. I mean, I don't know if the guy got hit by a bus or...
Well, so he had expressed interest in being acquired previously, right?
That's correct.
He's probably got a non-solicit, or he's probably under exclusivity with another buyer and can't talk to you, right?
Oh, really? He can't just say, I'm not interested anymore?
Can't say anything.
Really?
I mean, it would be in his best interest to not say it. It depends on what the words in the exclusivity provisions say, but to me, I'd be radio silent. Yeah. That's got to be what it is.
Wow.
Highly possible.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
time will tell.
Yeah, it's something that we've looked at. Is some of the companies are run so differently, and the structure is so differently, and so I'm actually a little bit nervous when I look at an acquisition and say, okay, would it be a good fit?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to walk into something that's a complete mess or a company that operates completely differently than how we do business. And so I don't know. I've got some cold feet about that, but our plan is to
work with me and make a run at First Service Residential so we can lower our fees and also you can clear the backlog of all my late payments. Then that would be we'll put together a big.
Eric needs an insider to get the lien off his own.
Yeah. First Service is they're a big national company. There's a handful of like the big national ones, and then you've got a couple of regional ones, and you got a lot of small players. There's a lot of like, husband and wife kind of type players too. It's crazy.
All right. That's the pod. Thanks, Dave. It was fun chat with you.
That was good. Thanks, guys.
Dave,
appreciate it.
It was a good convo. Appreciate you jumping on. Always good to catch up. When are you coming to Dallas, man?
Are we done? Are we off?
Get a chicken sandwich.
I don't know if we're done. I think we're still going.
Are we still on?
Yeah, I need to get up there.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mundane Millionaires. If you enjoyed what you heard in this episode, make sure to follow Mundane Millionaires wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. See you next time.